Mune dzematongerwo enyika, MDCA President Nelson Chamisa vachipindura Passion Dzungu Java vataura ivo vakati vane plan yekusaratidza maplan avo kuitira kuti vasina maplan vasaone maplan avo. Vatotaura ivo vakati vane basket remazai kutopfuura ratino Katsande. Tichienderera mberi, muvhangeri vaMakandiwa vanozvipiringisha nekuzvipikisa vadzokera kumberi vakaenda kumasure vakatoti ivo vava kuda kunobayiwa vaccine recoronavirus kana zvichitobvira vawane vavanotobayawo. Tichienderera mberi, President Emmanuel Mnangagwa vanofara zvikuru nekudonha kwaita inflation yemuZimbabwe. Vanoti ivo zvinoratidza kubudirira kwenyika nekushanda kwehurumende. Asi Monica Mutsvangwa ane muono wake. Anoti iye inflation rate inoshandiswa kuitira kuti opposition iwane kuvabvisa pazvigaro zvavo. Uku ndiko kupera kwenhau dzedu. Ndini wenyu Sanyatwa Sandati.
My people, comrades and friends, welcome to another episode of The Week with me, Comrade Fatso. And it's been a week. ZANU-PF is looking for bhegi for 2023. Passion Java is buying cars for comedians. And we had an exclusive interview with the warrior lawyer, Beatrice Mtetwa. But first, Emmanuel Prophet Makandiwa was in the news this week as he kind of changed his tune about COVID vaccines.
Here, I'm going to jail. And my children are going to jail. I'm ready for that. You have to drink it yourselves. You want to live. Some of us, we have the life already. Whoever wants to live, let him drink. Let him take that. I will not be forced to take that. I'm already telling you before it is announced. I will disobey my government.
Before, I have been vaccinated personally before. I've received different vaccines. I believe in vaccines. I support vaccines.
It goes to show Kutima corrections don't have an age limit. And when it comes to COVID, listen to your local scientist, not your local papa. Talking about papas, we saw this week why people follow Passion Java. Because he preaches the truth.
Bambaira bubunya ngakakaka hazika dead ko munanga gwaza kugwata kukwekwe makwebedain indizu kurata akubamba masigade da pepe kotsoto.
Did he just claim he was speaking in tongues and just repeated the words Mbambaira and Mnangagwa? Huh? Sweet potato president, hallelujah, kwekwe. Anyway, this upstanding preacher seems to be on a campaign to get the youth vote for ZANU-PF in 2023 by buying cars for comedians. The Lamborghini pastor allegedly bought swanky new rides for My Titi and Madam Boss. And now, Madam Boss is asking her followers for their phone numbers so she can send them data. Maybe her phone yakarasama contacts. No. Sounds like a ZANU-PF election plan to get your phone numbers. Saka, don't sell your souls for data, my comrades. Your WhatsApp number is your secret. Still on ZANU-PF's 2023 election strategy, the Msangano this week announced a $140 million budget for ED's re-election campaign. The ZANU-PF fundraising committee is like a who's who of looters, headed up by dodgy businessman Phil Selfie Chiangwa. The committee also includes Grain Millers Association of Zimbabwe President Cde Fatso, who last year was accused by MPs of being given 28 million USA by the RBZ for grain imports that were never actually delivered. Also in the committee is the Insta-famous gold dealer Scott Sakupwanya. Such beacons of financial transparency. Luckily, we now know how ZANU-PF election fundraising works through a recent report by the Center for Natural Resource Governance, the CNRG. The report found that ZANU-PF was selling off mining claims and minerals to a shadowy global network of shelf companies that would then send back the proceeds to the Msangano in the form of election funding. The report alleges that ZANU-PF paid over $990 million in bribes to SADC leaders and regional liberation movements in order to endorse the disputed 2013 election. And just in time for the 2023 elections, there's 140 million USA worth of diamonds money that recently went missing from the Minerals Marketing Corporation of Zimbabwe and ZMDC. And that money will probably find its way into FIDZA's fundraising committee. You see, they're looting with a plan.
Right, in this week's report, the World Bank has estimated that 7.9 million Zimbabweans are currently living in extreme poverty. 50% have been labeled as economically speaking, sort of big as breathing. And of the remaining top 1%, they are seeing dire financial problems, given that sales profits have, not sales profits, tithes have decreased dramatically due to the Delta variant just devastating the population. Extreme countermeasures have had to be taken to ensure that guarantors of income can continue. Congregants, to ensure that congregants can continue to seed money and attend super spreader private healing sessions that seem to be attended with the same very little level of irony as those insisting on attended neighborhood COVID funerals. This once again proves that just because you are swinging around the cross of Christ the same way you swing around your dick does not mean that you can go around peddling misinformation that is actually causing harm and killing people. But of course, that's not a major concern of yours, given that you promised them eternal life if they paid enough. Oh, but wait, they didn't get into heaven, because the way to know is to find out if you're there and you're still alive and healthy. So obviously they're not there, are they? Oh, heavenly gate guard, defender of divine and eternal life, huh? Pearly gate. Fun times exploiting. Anyway, please stay safe, stay home, get vaccinated, stay healthy, and back to you, Comrade. That's this week's report. Thank you.
We caught up this week with Zimbabwe's world-famous human rights lawyer, Beatrice Mtetwa, for an interview. My people, comrades and friends, thank you so much for joining us for this very special interview. We've got none other than the warrior lawyer, Beatrice Mtetwa. Beatrice, thank you for joining us on the show.
Thank you for inviting me.
So, Beatrice, my first question is, why do you try and use the courts to try and overthrow the Hurment?
Why do you say I'm trying to overthrow the Hurment? I'm just using laws that were put in place by the same Hurment. So if they didn't want the laws to be used, they ought not to have passed them in the first place. All the laws we take to court were passed by the ruling party in parliament. They've always had a majority. So every right that we demand is a right that they themselves have said we are entitled to.
They've made their bed, so they must sleep in it. I hear you. Okay, so what do you think about the government's current onslaught on the courts and on the constitution?
Well, the onslaught is deliberate. It is meant for power retention, obviously. The constitution is just being seen as an inconvenient document. I don't think there ever was really the desire to give people the rights that Chapter 4 in the Constitution says we have. And because they don't want the Constitution to come in the way of power retention, they must then go for the courts, and capture the courts so that the courts will interpret the Constitution in the manner that those in power want the rights diluted. This is why we are seeing the current debacle with the outgoing Chief Justice who they want to retain. You can only desperately want to retain someone because you know what they are going to do. I cannot believe that all those judges in the superior courts, he is the only person who can become Chief Justice. Why? Why are they so obsessed with retaining him? What is it that he can do which other judges cannot do? Surely this must be an insult to the other judges of the Constitutional Court to say that out of all of you, only he can be Chief Justice. But I mean, it is quite obvious that his retention is meant to complement the power retention.
But Beatrice, maybe Comrade Luke has done such a good job that maybe we should retain him until he's 100 or 105 years old.
Well, this is precisely the point. If we can change the constitution to say he can stay on until he is 75, when he is 75, what's going to stop us from changing the constitution to say, oh, maybe he can stay until he is 85? It will be completely endless. But the attempt is also deliberately designed to extend other terms. If you can change the constitution in order to retain the Chief Justice, it follows that the term limits that are enjoyed by the executive can also be changed in similar fashion. The president will already be there. So if the two-term limit that presidents should stick to in the constitution is dealt with in the same way come end of second term for a sitting president, what's going to stop them from doing exactly that? You know, so this is a trial run for themselves, and not just for themselves, but also for the oversight institutions. We have these various commissions that have term limits. So if they have commissioners who are quite pliable and will do whatever they are told to do, it follows that their term limits will also be changed. Basically, these guys are saying we can just throw away that constitution and forget about it because they'll do as they please anyway, particularly if they retain a judiciary that will happily, interpret the law to suit whatever the current situation demands according to the politicians.
So you're talking about ending certain people's term limits. So that brings me on to my next question, which is, why do you always represent regime change? You represent Hopewell Chingono, you represent Anna Pastor E. How come, comrade? Eh?
That is not correct, actually. If you look to the immediate past, you will see that my clients included the likes of Matemadanda. I don't think he's a regime change agent. So when the war veterans were having trouble before the Restore Legacy coup, they came to me. I don't know whether by regime change it's because they wanted to change the previous regime to the current regime.
You see now, Beatrice. You see now, yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Generally, people come to me when they believe that most lawyers might not want to do certain types of cases. I mean, the type of work I do requires that you really be able to forgo certain types of work. For instance, there are many corporates who would never ever use me because I'm seen as part of the regime change agent. And if you're a lawyer and you want to get good corporate work and make money, you definitely will not do the kind of cases that I do. But because I've always looked at the law more as a tool to effect change, good change, I'm not really bothered by those who will not come to me because I'm seen as a regime change agent. The people that I generally represent are people who are either activists and are seen to be in opposition, although the law allows them to, engage in their activism. Or there are also people who've fallen out with the system and therefore are looking for someone they believe might not be easy to manipulate by the system through incentives where someone might pay me to underrepresent or not to represent certain people. So that really is generally the reason why people come to me at the end of the day. When it comes to lucrative deals by the same people, if it is nothing to do with their own immediate personal issues, they'll not come anywhere near me. So I'm kind of lawyer of last choice when there's personal threat to one's interests.
Yeah, when people kind of one, they come and see you. That's when they come and see Beatrice.
Yes, so, absolutely.
So Beatrice, I'm going to ask you some multiple choice questions. This is very easy. It's either or. You can say you can say either or neither. It's up to you. So it's a very simple multiple choice, like we used to do back in the day of high school. So your first multiple choice question: George Charamba or Jonathan Moyo?
Neither.
Selma Mtukudzi or Toki Vibes?
Both.
Okay, a diplomat. The final multiple choice question: peri peri chicken or matumbu?
This is Shamari.
Let's make it a one.
Matumbu.
Okay,
will win. Yeah.
Great. That's the end of the multiple choice round. So another thing that's come up recently is you've been accused of intimidating judges just when you walk into the courtroom. Hansi, the judges get intimidated. Are the judges scared of you, Beatrice? They've tried to take you before and stop you from representing your clients. It happened with Hopewell and Diti. So are they scared of you?
I don't think so. Actually, I'm a very small woman. Okay, I might have put on a bit of weight, but I'm a very small woman. The idea of me intimidating anyone simply just, I can't believe that can be possible. But yes, I am robust in my arguments. I will not be intimidated into not saying certain things if they need to be said. I think generally the reason I was removed from Hopewell's case was not so much because the magistrate was intimidated, but because they don't want certain things to be on record, because then they become easy to appeal against or easy to be reviewed. And sometimes cases like Hopewell's, they are obviously political. And so to try and camouflage the political nature of the case, you don't want someone who will interrogate virtually every aspect of the case. But I mean, that's how lawyering really is supposed to be. And, magistrates, judges, and other judicial officers should not feel intimidated by particular lawyers. I mean, their job is to really get as much assistance from the people appearing before them as is possible. And if I were a judge and I get someone who will interrogate every aspect of a case, I would really be very happy, because it makes it easier to make a decision if you want to make a legal decision. So those who are intimidated, it should be because they do not want to make legal decisions. They do not want the law interrogated in the particular case, and therefore they do not want someone who will robustly deal with every aspect of the case.
Yeah, so we have a public service announcement there to judges. Good, guys, Beatrice, good moon. Musajke, guys, musajke. So Beatrice, the government, amongst their many schemes, at the moment, one of the latest things is they're trying to change the Legal Practitioners Act so that the Justice Minister can reject foreign funding to the Law Society. So, I mean, what would the implications of this be if it came into being?
Well, I mean, it's a smokescreen to say they want to avoid foreign funding of the Law Society, because foreign funding of the Law Society is very, very tiny, and it relates to specific programs. And those are programs that are meant for the general populace to really be able to access the law or to improve, the access to justice in Zimbabwe. I do not believe that they are doing it for that reason. The real reason is that the government wants to control lawyers. They want to be the ones to discipline lawyers. They want to be able to say, Beatrice Mtetwa, you've done X, Y, Z, therefore you are no longer a fit and proper person. And then they take me before some captured judge, tribunal, or whoever, who will then just rubber stamp what the government wants, because the idea will be to remove certain types of lawyers from practice. That really is the bottom line. They want to control the profession. They want us to lose our independence, and they want us not to do certain types of cases because we will be fearing being deregistered or being arrested, or whichever they will put in the Legal Practitioners Act. People might not know this, Fatso. The Judicial Service Commission is funded by the EU. If you get into the courts and you see recording machines, etc., they have EU stamps all over them. The Judicial Service Commission receives more funding than the Law Society. Why is it okay for the Judicial Service Commission, which controls judges, which employs judges, to be funded by the European Union, and it is not okay for the Law Society to be funded by the same donor? Clearly, what you are being told is the reason for amending the Legal Practitioners Act cannot be the truth. If foreign funding within the judiciary is unacceptable, then clearly they must also deal with the issue of why Malaba is being funded by the EU with his judges. When they have their conferences, the EU funds some of those conferences. Why is that okay?
That's a very interesting point. Very interesting point. But what about Ziambi's accusations that some lawyers are being paid to tarnish the image of the country, and that you're just night lawyers in night courts?
Cases are dealt with depending on their agency. It's done the world over. And it should, if I'm going to be, harmed, if the court waits until morning, what's the point of having a court? If in fact it cannot come to my aid at my hour of need, if that hour of need is at 2:00 in the morning. That is being said deliberately to try and stop certain judges doing certain cases at certain times. This recently came up, obviously, when a matter that ultimately was decided against the government. The court did not sit at night. The court sat during normal court hours, but the arguments went on until night time. And the harm that was sought to be prevented was imminent. Is the suggestion that the judges ought not to have sat throughout that period when the arguments went on and on and on and on, into the night. That just was a cheap attempt at copying Jonathan Moyo by someone even have Jonathan Moyo's intellect.
Shots fired. Okay, Beatrice. So I'm going to give you a hypothetical question. You go to join a city to go and buy yourself a Hawaiian pizza, okay? and you get into the elevator, it's going up, all of a sudden it gets stuck. And now you're stuck in that elevator and it's just you and none other than Zimbabwe's most famous birthday boy, Chief Justice Luke Malaba. You're stuck in that elevator. It's going to be maybe 10, 15 minutes, maybe an hour. What do you say to your comrade Luke? You've got time to chit chat.
Yes, how are you, Chief Justice? Oh, what a place to meet each other. So perhaps we could have a serious chat. Why are you trying to destroy your legacy? Surely if you walked away right now, you would walk away with some dignity. You would, with your kind of intellect, be eligible to be appointed to many tribunals in the region, to many appeal courts in the region. You would be able to do a lot of arbitration work. And of course, you'll have time to play with your grandchildren and also to just watch your large herd of cattle at your farm multiplying. Surely you do need the rest after such a wonderful legal career. You know, I think it would be wonderful if you just proved everyone wrong by saying, you know what, I really do not think I am the person who ought to get back onto that hot seat through such a messy process. I'm too dignified for that. Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for considering me for this position, but I am not available. That probably would be my chat with the Chief Justice.
You've said it. We don't need to do all these court processes, all these challenges. All that we need to do for Comrade Malaba to retire is, please, can you just set up a Zoom call with him tomorrow? Can I just send him a voice note by WhatsApp? Because I think you'll convince him. Really, he will retire.
Well, you could send him this tape to watch.
I think we will.
Because the Zoom call might be impossible. The minute he sees it's me, he might not want to listen.
You'll be intimidated. So Beatrice, we just got a few more questions for you, and I wanted to ask, about your career. You've on the one hand you've been beaten and arrested by the government. On the other, you've won multiple international awards. You've reached such a level, not just as a hugely well-known lawyer in Zimbabwe, but on the continent. But how have you managed to get to such a level, despite the fact that, of course, Zimbabwe is such a patriarchal society, and there have been so many hurdles and so many obstacles thrown at you as a woman, and not just a woman, but as a black woman?
I never really think of myself as a woman or as a black woman. I just always think of myself as a lawyer. Mm-hmm. I find that a lot of these isms get thrown around far too easily. My motto has always been, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. I'm not going to scream gender before I have tried. There are a lot of lawyers who have tried and have failed. So trying is almost always, for me, the best way to see whether or not I can do something. So I never really even think of possible danger when I take on a case, because my attitude is, this is my job. I'm a lawyer, and I'm a lawyer who is here to do this kind of work. I'm not going to stop doing it because somebody might not like what I'm doing. Someone might throw some spikes on the way for me to fall. Someone might think I should be arrested or removed from a case. I never really think of that. And I almost always get surprised when I get into trouble, when all I'll be doing is just lawyering. I always put this as something similar to a doctor who will just treat anybody regardless of how they got injured or came to require treatment, doctors don't ask if you were beaten up by police or some Zanu PF thugs, etc. They just treat you because you've got to be treated. So I feel very strongly that lawyers should be left in exactly the same way. I should not have to look at the reasons why my client requires legal representation. I should not have to look at their politics, because their politics is their entitlement. I really should just look at whether or not the case fits the type of case that I have expertise to take to court and argue, you know. So I've just done my job without thinking about, you know, oh, as a black woman, I shouldn't be doing this, you know. I just do the work that needs to be done.
Yeah. Okay. So I've got a hypothetical question for you. You get a phone call and you have to fight in a boxing match. Who do you choose to go in the ring with you to fight against? Hypothetical question, in a boxing match, and you can only fight against one person. You have to go all 10 rounds, 12 rounds with them. Who would you choose? Don't worry, you'll be wearing boxing, bare knuckle street fighting.
Okay, that's a hard one. There are so many people I would like to box. I'd probably want to go to the cabinet when they meet on Tuesdays, put on my rings, and literally just throw punches at each one of them in the hope that for once they might make decisions that are good for the country and not for themselves or for their immediate interests. Yeah. So I'd probably just go and throw punches at all those decision makers, whether they're in the Politburo or in cabinet. I would just go in, and if I get punched and I end up on the floor, at least I would have thrown a couple of jabs at some of them.
Hey, Beatrice coming out guns blazing. Okay, so my final question to you. That's gonna be a headline. Eh? Beatrice wants to box the cabinet. So my final question to you: if there were 5 things that you could change in Zimbabwe to make our country a better, a fairer, and a more just society, what would those 5 things be? What would you want to change?
I would like our leaders in government, first and foremost, to respect the Constitution. Do things as we envisaged would be done under this new Constitution. Have all of those oversight institutions manned by independent men and women. Do not interfere with their independence. Leave judges alone. We've got very, very good judges who are operating under very difficult circumstances because of fear. Leave the judiciary alone. And I would then go to the judiciary and say to the judiciary, your job is to look at the law and to apply it blindly. You should not look at who is involved, who the litigants are. Stop looting. I would really want an anti-corruption unit that deals with anti-corruption, especially where real corruption is concerned. I would want that anti-corruption unit to deal with the real thieves and to make sure that what they have looted is brought back to Zimbabwe. I would say, Mtuli, stop telling us about surpluses that do not exist. I would say, get the economy going by removing all the hurdles that are there. Make investment easy. Do not change your policies willy-nilly. Today it is this, tomorrow there's SI this, which changes what you put in last week. Have consistency so that your investor has the confidence to bring their money into Zimbabwe, knowing that they can take it out after they've properly invested. Do not have these crazy laws where you can just wake up and someone has been given tax breaks without any reason whatsoever. You know, I mean, that's just makes it so difficult for businesses. Remove the restrictions on business. Every day you open the paper, business is being threatened. Business is being threatened. The very, very taxpayers that government relies on are being threatened every day by the government that ought to be making doing business in Zimbabwe easier. I have a long list, Fatso, but generally, make decisions for the people of Zimbabwe, not for yourselves. Yeah.
That's a great list, Beatrice. Yeah, I think you can write a book with those demands. It would definitely help make Zimbabwe a better place. But that brings us to the end of the interview, Beatrice. And I'd just like to say thanks so much for making the time, and thank you for being the warrior lawyer out there on the streets and in the courts that's fighting for a better Zimbabwe. Thanks so much, Beatrice.
No, thank you for inviting me, Fatso. Thank you.
Our saga of the week is none other than Malawian President Lazarus, I believe I can fly, Chakwera, who flew all the way to the UK for a virtual summit. Why did he do it? Hanzi Wi-Fi yeku Malawi yakada. I guess he just needed the Queen to hotspot him. A presidential spokesperson said, even though the said summit is virtual, the president needs to be in the UK physically, as you know, internet connection in Malawi is not reliable. Yes, a whole president traveling all the way to London to do a Zoom call. Then he tries to take a delegation of 63 people to this virtual summit, including his wife, his daughter, and his son-in-law. I mean, what does he need his son-in-law there for? To log into the Zoom meeting for him? That has to be the most expensive Zoom call ever. Nelson Chamisa finally did something this week. He tweeted about eggs in a basket. Instead of finally announcing something, he announced that he wasn't going to announce anything. We don't put all our eggs in one basket. We don't clumsily lay all our cards on the table. We don't flip the book open for them to counter us. In this game, you don't let the opposite know what the game plan is. We keep them guessing. Yes, you keep us, the electorate, guessing what the hell your plan is. I mean, crack the eggs and make an omelette or something. In some good news, the Johnson & Johnson COVID vaccine has finally been approved by the Hurumende. In some not so good news, our Hurumende missed their own target to vaccinate 1 million people in 2 weeks by 43%. So how will we achieve herd immunity? Maybe ED should stop rejecting vaccine donations from the COVAX facility and from other countries that aren't Russia or China, because we need to ramp up this vaccine rollout. We've come to the end of our season of the week, and we're gonna take a little break. So keep it real, stay inspired, and keep fighting for a better and more just Zimbabwe. Thanks for joining us on the week. Follow Magamba TV on social media. I've been Comrade Fatso. You have been the people. Thank you. Mbambaira, Mnangagwa, Kwekwe, Hallelujah, and Futsek.